persistently from his hall, examining the edge of the dust above and below. I was almost certain I could see movements, human forms gliding here and there. I steamed past prudently, then stopped the engines, weather drifting. The man on the shore began to shout, urging us to land. "We have been attacked," screamed the major. I know, it's all right," yelled back the other, as cheerful as you please. "Come along, it's all right, I'm glad."
All right, so look at question number 1. This is the last sheet of questions. What really scared off the natives? We actually mentioned it. Right, it was the whistle, the boat's whistle, steam whistle. It scared them to death. Did you notice what he saw? I just got to point that. It doesn't ask you this, but you'll find out later. He saw a long decaying building on the summit, and half a dozen, that's 6, slim posts remained in a row, roughly trimmed, with the upper ends ornamented with round curved balls. Just keep that in mind. An old dilapidated building, kind of with 3 or 6 stakes in the ground, with something round on the top of each stake. And then he sees this guy, and let's call him the Russian, because that's what he is. He's a Russian. But we'll answer number 2 here in a minute. Robbie, we're going to go that way. We're going to go that way.
So, me?
Yeah.
Okay. The aspect reminded me of something I had seen, something funny I had seen somewhere. As I maneuvered to get alongside, I was asking myself, what does this fellow look like? Suddenly I got it. He looked like a harlequin. His clothes had been made of some stuff that was brown holly, but it was covered with patches all over it. With bright patches of blue, red, and yellow. Patches on the back, patches on the front, patches on the elbows, on the knees. Color binding around his jacket, scarlet edging at the bottom of his trousers, and the sunshine made him look extremely gay and wonderfully benevolent. Because you could see how beautifully all this patching had been done. This boyish face was very fair, no features to speak of. Nose peeling, little blue eyes, smiles and frowns chasing each other. Had open countenance like sunshine shadowed on a sweat plant. "Look out, Captain," he cried. "There's your snag watch in here last night." What another snag, I confess, I swore shamefully. I nearly pulled my cripple. We finished off that charming trip. Harlequin on the beach turned his little pug nose up. "Do English?" he asked. "All smiles, are you?" I shouted. The smile vanished, and he shook his head as if sorry for my disappointment. Then he brightened up. "Never mind," he cried encouragingly. "Are we in time?" I asked. "He's up there," he replied with a toss of head up the hill. He'd be coming with me all of a sudden. His face was like an off sky overcast. One moment and bright the next.
All right, so who is the guy that is on the shore? I call him the Russian, but that's not what it asked. What does he look like? Was one of the vocabulary words on the quiz tomorrow. It's a harlequin. What did we say a harlequin was? A clown. He's dressed in patched clothing. It's like red, yellow, blue, green, just like all over his coat and even his pants. He's young. He's friendly. Here in the middle of Africa, the heart of darkness, there's this guy who's like a clown. Nice and could be carefree, like you like the word surreal, just unreal. This doesn't make sense. We're going to find out about it. He is Russian. Eventually we'll find out about it. Julie.
When the manager, escorted by the pilgrims, all of them armed to the teeth, had gone to the house, this chap came on board. I say, "I don't like this. These natives are in the bush," I said. He assured me earnestly it was all right. "They're simple people," he added. "Well, I'm glad you came. It took me all my time to keep them off, but you said it was all right," I cried. "Oh, they meant no harm," he said, and as I stared, he corrected himself, saying, "Not exactly." Then
Vivacious.
My faith, your pilot house wants a cleanup. seemed to be trying to make up for lots of silence and actually hinted, laughing, that such was the case. Don't you talk with Mr. Kurtz, he said. You don't talk with that man, you listen to him.
Okay, underline that. That is, again, just summarizes the personality of Kurtz. You don't talk to Kurtz, you listen to Kurtz. Like some wise man, some king, some deity. The power of his voice. You go ahead.
You listened to him, he explained with severe exultation, but now he waved his arm and in the twinkling of an eye was in the uttermost depths of despondency. In a moment he came up again with a jump, possessed himself of both my hands, shook them continuously while he babbled, brother, sailor, honor, pleasure, delight, introduced myself, Russian, son of an archpriest, government of Tambov. What? Tobacco, English tobacco, the excellent English tobacco. Now that's brotherly. Smoke? Where's a sailor that does not smoke?
Okay, so we'll learn more about him in the next paragraph. Jeff?
The pipe soothed him. Gradually I made out he had run away from school, had gone to see the Russian ship, ran away again, served some time in English ships, now reconciled with the archpriest. He made a point of that. But when one is young, must see things, gather experience, ideas, enlarge his mind. Here, I interrupted. You can never tell. Here I met Mr. Kurtz, he said, youthfully solemn and reproachful. I held my tongue after that. It appears he had persuaded a Dutch trading house on the coast to fit him out with stores and goods, and started for the interior with a light heart and no more idea of what would happen to him than a baby. He had been wandering about that river for nearly 2 years alone, cut off from everybody and everything. I'm not so young as I look. I'm 25. At first, old Van Schoiten would tell me to go to the devil. He narrated with the teenage women, but I stuck to him and talked, till at last he got afraid I would talk the hind leg off his favorite dog. So he gave me some cheap things and a few guns. He told me he hoped he would never see my face again. Good old Dutchman, Van Schoiten. I've sent him one small lot of ivory a year ago, so that he can't call me a little thief when I get back. I hope he got it. For the rest, I don't care. I had some wood stacked for you. That was my old house. You see?
Thanks. We'll read it to the end.
I gave him Towson's book. He made as though he would kiss me, but restrained himself. The only book I had left, and I thought I had lost it, he said, looking at it ecstatically. So many accidents happen to a man going home alone, you know. Canoes get upset sometimes, and sometimes you got to clear out so quick when the people get angry. He thumbed the pages. You made notes in Russian, I asked. He nodded. I thought they were written in cipher. I said. He laughed, then became serious. I had lots of trouble to keep these people off, he said. Did they want to kill you, I asked. Oh no, he cried and checked himself. When did they attack us? I pursued. He hesitated, then said, shamefacedly, they don't want him to go, don't they? I said, curiously. He nodded, a nod full of mystery and wisdom. I tell you, he cried, this man has enlarged my mind. He opened his arms wide, staring at me with his little blue eyes that were perfectly round.
You notice again, strange things about Kurtz. After all we said about Kurtz, that they worshipped him like a god, he was mean, you're gonna find some more things about him. They didn't want him to leave, so they weren't actually attacking the ship, they were trying to defend Kurtz from the ship. The natives are like his people. They worship the ground he walked on. All right, we'll turn the page, we'll go to Hartley.
I looked at him, lost in astonishment. There he was before me and noted, as though he had absconded from a group of mimes, enthusiastic, fabulous. His very existence was improbable, inexplicable, and altogether bewildering. He was an insoluble problem. It was inconceivable how he had existed, how he had succeeded in days so far, how he had managed to remain.
pick it up there.
I almost envied the position of this modest and clear flame. It seemed to have consumed all thought of self so completely that even while he was talking to you, you forgot that it was he, the man before your eyes, who had gone through these things. I did not envy him whose devotion to Christ, though. He had not mediated over it. It came to him and he accepted it with a sort of eager fatalism. I must say that to me, it appeared about the most dangerous thing in every way he had come upon so far.
Okay, we can answer 3. What's the background of the Russian? What do we learn? He's from Russia. His father was a priest. He ran away from home, from school.
In England, to go on a Russian ship, English ship,
Right, and he ends up in Africa.
with a Dutchman.
Yes, and he wanders for 2 years in the jungle. He finds Kurds. So what has he been doing for 2 years? Kind of wandering, just existing. What's his opinion of Kurds? You get the idea that he also worships him. He said, you don't talk to Kurds, you listen to him. He just says, he enlarged my mind. You know, those are kind of the things you would say about God. He's saying it about Kurds. You don't talk to him, you listen, and this man enlarged my mind. Okay. 4. What is Marlowe's opinion of the young Russian? He doesn't state it, you just have to infer it from what you read. Did he like him, or did he admire him, or did he think he was a joke? He looks like a joke, he's wearing clothes like a joke, but he doesn't think he's a joke. What does he say about it?
It's likable.
Yeah,
But he doesn't necessarily envy, he does not necessarily envy his devotion to Kurds.
yes, and he's astonished by him. He's never met anybody that would just give up everything to live the most difficult life you could possibly live at age 25. Yeah, he's just like, he exists on the least amount, like a Thoreau, he could possibly live on. And he just seeks adventure and danger. That's his description of it. It's like he admires him, although he doesn't admire his. And notice, this is the closest we've been to Kurds, both geographically and knowledge-wise. He's never talked to anybody who has lived this closely to Kurds. We still haven't met Kurds, but we know somebody who, like, is assistant to Kurds. And we're also there, literally. We're at the spot. Kurds is up the hill somewhere. So you see how the book is started in England, ended up in Brussels, went to the outer station, went to the central station, now the inner station. The whole book has been, every stage he hears about Kurds, a little bit more about Kurds. And now he's within seeing him, which will, 4 pages from now, we'll see him. So just notice that he's, and that's 7, we can answer 7. What does he admire? His sense of adventure, his lack of concern. Would you like to read a little more? Jane?
They had come together unavoidably like 2 ships becalmed near each other, and lay rubbing sides at last. I suppose Kurtz went in the audience because on a certain occasion when they camped in the forest, they had talked all night, or more probably Kurtz talked. We talked of everything, he said, quite transported all the recollection. I forgot there was such a thing as sleep. The night did not seem to last an hour. Everything of love too. He talked to you of love. I said much assumed. It isn't what you think, he cried, almost passionately. It was in general. He made me see things. He threw his arms up. We were on deck at the time, and the headman of my woodcutters, lounging nearby, turned upon his heavy and glittering glass. I looked around, and I don't know why, but I assure you that never before did this land, this river, this jungle, the very arch of this blazing sky, appear to me so hopeless and so dark, so impenetrable to human thought, so pitiless to human weakness. And ever since you have been with him, of course, I said.
You know, they are geographically, again, at the heart of darkness. This is as far as they'll go. They won't go any further. There's no further to go. The river stops here. And so if there is a place that is, which there isn't, it's the heart, you know, the human heart. But if there were a place in the book, it's right here. Because this is where Kurtz is. And Kurtz kind of represents the Antichrist, you know, anyway, that was significant. It's never been darker, it's never been more hopeless. Life seemed so hopeless at this point. And you can keep reading or pass it.
I'll pass it.
On the contrary, it appears their intercourse had been very much broken by various causes. He had, as he informed me, proudly managed to nurse Kurtz through 2 illnesses. He alluded to it as he would to some risky feat. But as a rule, Kurtz wandered alone, far in the depths of the forest. Very often coming to the station, I had to wait days and days before he would turn up, he said. It was worth waiting for, sometimes. What was he doing? Exploring or what? I asked. Oh yes, of course, he had discovered lots of villages, a lake too. He did not know exactly in what direction, it was too dangerous to inquire too much. But mostly his expeditions had been for ivory, but he had no goods to trade with by that time, I objected. There's a good lot of cartridges left even yet, he answered, looking away. To speak plainly, he raided the country, I said. He nodded, not alone surely. He muttered something about the villages around that lake. Kurtz got the tribe to follow him, did he? I suggested. He fidgeted a little. They adored him, he said. The tone of these words was so extraordinary that I looked at him searchingly. It was curious to see his mingled eagerness and reluctance to speak of Kurtz. The man filled his life, occupied his thoughts, swayed his emotions. What can you expect? He burst out. He came to them with thunder and lightning, you know, and they had never seen anything like it, and very terrible. He could be very terrible. You can't judge Mr. Kurtz as you would an ordinary man.
Now notice that comment. It's like he's Superman. I think I talked about that. There was a philosophical idea, some Russian, German philosophers at this time believed that there were such people, and he called them Supermen. And he used Napoleon as the example. People that lived above the law. They didn't have to obey the law, they made the law. You know, that's what this guy kind of represents. The idea that some people they're just better than everybody else, and they make the morals. They tell us what's good and what's bad. Again, almost like, well, only like God can do. But they've made these people into gods.
No. Now, just to give you an idea, I don't mind telling you if you wanted to shoot me too one day, but I don't judge you. Shoot you, I cried. What for? Well, I had a small lot of ivory the chief of that village near my house gave me. You see, I used to shoot game for them. Well, he wanted it and wouldn't hear reason. He declared he would shoot me unless I gave him the ivory and then cleared out of the country, because he could do so and had a fancy for it. And there was nothing on earth to prevent him killing whom he jolly well pleased. And it was true too. I gave him the ivory. What did I care? But I didn't clear out. No, I couldn't leave him. I had to be careful, of course, till we got friendly again for a time. He had his second illness then. Afterwards, I had to keep out of the way, but I didn't mind. He was living for the most part in those villages on the lake. When he came down to the river sometimes, he would take to me, and sometimes it was better for me to be careful. This man suffered too much. He hated all this, and somehow he couldn't get away.
See, hear that, underline that. He hated it, but he couldn't get away from it. Who does that sound like? That we read. Dr. Jekyll. He hated Hyde at the end, but he couldn't get away from Hyde. But doesn't it sound like Paul? He hates his sin, but he can't do anything about his sin. The difference is there is somebody who can do something about it. But this guy's like Jekyll. Kurtz is like Jekyll in the sense he hated what he was doing, he couldn't stop it. Remember one time he was leaving, and he got halfway, he turned around and went back. Like it's just something kept drawing him back in. If you read to the bottom, I'll share it with Alistair.
When I had a chance, I begged him to try and leave while there was time. I offered to go back with him. He would say yes, and then he would remain, go off on another ivory hunt, disappear for weeks, forget himself amongst these people, forget himself, you know? Why, he's mad, I said. He protested indignantly. Mr. Kurtz couldn't be mad. If I had heard him talk only 2 days ago, I wouldn't dare panic. Such a thing.
Alistair.
I had taken off my binoculars while we talked, and was looking at the shore, sweeping the limit of the forest at each side and at the back of the house. The consciousness of there being people in that bush so silent, so quiet as the ruined house on the hill, made me uneasy. There was no sign of the face of nature in this amazing tale. There was not so much told as suggested to me as desolate explanations, pleaded by shrugs, interrupted phrases, hints ending in deep sighs. The woods were like a mask, heavy, like the closed door of a prison. They looked with arrogant knowledge of patient expectation, of unapproachable silence. The Russian was explaining to me that it was only lately that Mr. Kurtz had come down to the river, bringing along with him all the fighting men of that lake front. He had been absent for several months, getting himself into I suppose, and had come down unexpectedly with the intention to all appearance of making a raid either across the river or downstream. Evidently, the appetite for more ivory had got the better of the, what shall I say, less material aspirations. However, he had got much worse suddenly. I heard he was lying helpless, so I came up, took my chance at the Russian. But he is bad, very bad. I directed my glass at the house. There were no signs of life, but there was the ruined roof, the long mud wall heaping above the grass, and 3 little square window holes, no 2 of the same size. All this brought within reach of my hand, as it were. And then I made a brusque movement, and one of the remaining posts of that vanished fence leapt up in the field of my glass. You remember I told you I had been struck at the distance by certain attempts at formation, rather remarkable in the ruinous aspect of the place. Now I had suddenly a nearer view, and its first result was to make me throw my head back as if before a blow. And I went carefully from post to post with my glass. I saw my mistake. Those round mouths were not ornamental, but symbolic. They're expressive and puzzling, striking and disturbing.
What do you think they are? Yeah.
They were expressive and puzzling, striking and disturbing, food for thought, and also for the vultures if they had been any looking down from the sky. But at all events, for such ants that were industrious enough to ascend the pole, they would have been even more impressive, those heads on the stakes. Their faces had not been turned to the house, only one, the first I had made out, was facing my way. I was not so shocked as he may think. The start back I had given was really nothing but a movement of surprise. I expected to see a novel wood there, you know. I returned deliberately to the first I had seen. There it was, black, dried, sunken, with closed eyelids, a head that seemed to sleep at the top of the pole, with these shrunken, dry lips showing a narrow white line of teeth, was smiling too, smiling continuously at some endless and just-seen dream of that eternal slumber.
Thanks. Look at 8. What did Kurtz do in the wilderness and who helped him?
Wandered for ivory.
Yeah, he collected ivory. He stole it. He would get it anyway. Who helped him? Other tribes. So people were helping him take the ivory from other people. And let's see. Oh yeah, up 10. 9. How did the natives treat Kurtz? How was the Russians similar to those natives? They loved him. They adored him. And so did the Russian. Look at 10. Why did Kurtz threaten to shoot the Russian? And why does he not judge Kurtz for it? What did the Russian have that Kurtz wanted? Ivory. Even though it's a little bit of ivory. He wanted it. And but why did the Russian not judge Kurtz for this? We just said it, because Kurtz is a Superman. He's above the law. Some people you can't judge by our standards. There are some people that are better than us. They don't have to live by those standards. Maybe we can just read one more and we'll be... Oh, I'm sorry, we'll go to Emma. I'm sorry. We'll get to you.
I'm not disclosing any trade secrets. In fact, the manager said afterwards that Mr. Kurtz's methods have ruined this district. I have no opinion on that point, but I want you clearly to understand that there was nothing except profitable in these heads being there. They only show that Mr. Kurtz lacked restraint in the gratification of his various lusts, that there was something wanting in him, some small matter, which, when pressing me to rouse, could not be found in his magnificent eloquence. Whether he knew of this deficiency himself, I cannot say. I think the knowledge came to him at last, only at the very last, but the wilderness had found him out early, and had taken on him a terrible vengeance for the fantastic invasion. I think it had whispered to him things about himself which he did not know, things of which he had no conception till he took counsel with this great solitude. And the whisper had proved irresistibly fascinating. It echoed loudly within him because he was hollow at the core. I put down the glass, and the head that had appeared near enough to be spoken to seemed at once to have leaped away from me in inaccessible distance.
So, we just have a second. Let me see those questions. We'll start this.
Does it have like built-in?
Is this your-
Checking.
Yeah.
Hold it down. Yes. Yeah, exactly what that Nice thing is they can let it
How did you show me the vocabulary today?
Sorry?
Did you show me your new vocabulary?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good. Five. Emma, did you show me this?
No, I have them written down in my book, and I take them tomorrow.
Yeah. 5, Ben, did you